Good afternoon. Why anyone can be successful. Now, it's probably a quote that you've heard many times. It's probably a quote that you either agree or disagree with. But for me, it's a quote that I really, really agree with. And I spent the last few years trying to embed the quote into everything that I do. Because a lot of people will tell you that you can't be successful, and a lot of people will tell you 101 reasons why you can't do something. But hopefully, by the end of this presentation, you will realize that regardless of your background or your family, you can do anything. Now, Barack Obama is someone that I look up to a great deal. And he once said, the real test is not whether you avoid failure, because you won't. It's whether you let it harden or shame you into inaction, or whether you learn from it, whether you choose to persevere. Now, clearly, this is a man that a lot of people told him that he would never be president of the United States. He would never become a senator. He would never become anything. But remember, he ignored that, and he persevered. And he never let failure stop him trying to achieve what he achieved, becoming the first African-American president of the United States. So he's someone that I look up to a lot, and someone that I think you should look up to as well. So I grew up in London. I was a pretty energetic child. I used to annoy my neighbors because I'd be outside making noises all the time, and I'd never go to bed when I was told. And throughout school, the doctors thought that there was something wrong with me because I wasn't listening, and they thought that maybe I might be deaf, or I might have ADHD, or might have some kind of disorder. But actually, it just turned out that I was a pretty energetic child. I didn't actually have anything wrong with me. But what was interesting is throughout school, at an early age, in primary school, secondary school, college, etc., I couldn't focus. I never really enjoyed school. I never took it that seriously. And subsequently, my grades, unfortunately, were pretty average throughout. So a lot of teachers always used to think that Alex, nice kid, but not really going to be much. Not really going to go on to do anything. I remember when I applied for head boy and didn't get it. And I left the room feeling so disappointed. And I remember that feeling because actually a good friend of mine got head boy. And I remember walking around thinking, oh, God, I wish I'd worked harder to get that position. And that was a common theme throughout my childhood. Not getting roles, not getting this, not getting that. Being told by my teachers that I was never going to be anything. Grades always quite average. I remember I got placed into top set science. And at the time, it was an achievement. But actually what happened is in top set science, I was probably the worst performing student in top set. So again, felt out of place and not really going to achieve anything. And I remember going to a parents' evening in year 11, and I'd just done my mocks, and I'd literally got lots of U's and lots of poor grades, actually. I didn't take my mocks seriously. And a lot of the teachers told my parents that Alex is going to fail lots of his exams, and Alex actually isn't going to go and do anything because he talks and he's a nice guy, but he actually doesn't take school seriously. And going into my exams, I started to panic because it started to hit me, thinking, okay, actually, this is going to get real now, because if I really do badly, what am I going to do? Luckily, I managed to slightly turn it around, and my grades got better. Still not amazing. And bear in mind, I grew up with an older brother that was academically really, really strong, would get A stars and everything. So that didn't necessarily help. Went through my GCSEs, got okay grades, went on to a college, and actually, in fairness, the college was a good college, but I only really got in because my brother had gone there. Went to college, and again, still unfortunately just didn't take it seriously. For some reason, I just didn't really enjoy it. And my grades, unfortunately, still were quite average. And then it got to results day. Now, many people will know on A-level results days, you wake up early in the morning, I couldn't sleep the night before, and you really panic thinking, okay, gosh, I really hope I get the grades that I need. And I missed one of my grades. And it was a really, really difficult moment for me. I remember sitting in front of my parents having to explain that actually Coventry University just rang and said that they're going to have to see if they can accept me into their university. And it took 3 days for them to accept me into the university. And during those 3 days, all of my close friends had all got their offers. They'd all been out partying. And I was sitting at home really contemplating my whole life. And for me, it was tough because I'd really regretted the fact that it got to this. But luckily, Coventry University decided to take a chance and gave me the offer for my undergraduate in management studies. And from there, things really turned around. This is the first day of me moving into university. For me, it was an interesting day because obviously after those 3 days of not knowing if I was going to be going to university or to Coventry, arriving was a massive relief. I was nervous but relieved because unlike a lot of the students, just getting in was a massive challenge, let alone, moving in, etc. But when I arrived at Coventry, I then started to think, okay, how am I going to turn my life around here? And what do I want to achieve and what do I want to do? And for me, I knew that I really wanted to go into banking. And the reason for that at the time was because I looked at many individuals that I left top universities and then gone into consulting and banking, etc. But what was interesting was when I went to conferences and I would get on train tickets and go down to London, I felt massively out of place. Lots of people there were Oxford, were Harvard, were Cambridge, were Warwick, were LSE. So I started to think, okay, I'm going to really up my game here. So I started to get involved in the student union, take up sports, work on my CV, get a part-time job, really do lots of things to ensure that I looked as best as I could do. Because bear in mind, I didn't think too deeply at college about university rankings and about what university I was going to be going to and how that would dictate the route that I took. But realized quite quickly that actually the university that I came from would have a massive impact on my future. So I had to do things to ensure that it didn't have an impact on my future, that I would be successful no matter what university or what grade or what background I came from. So for me, I started to get mentors, people that I really wanted to believe in me. And they said to me, you need to get more involved. You need to take a leadership position in the university. So I said, fine. So I ran for what was called faculty chair. And this was me giving a speech to 400 people at the time, trying to get re-elected, because actually, luckily, I'd got elected the first year and was rerunning. And this was a massive turning point for me, because I'd never had any leadership positions really up until that position. But I took it, I ran for it, and I was successful for both years. And for me, it really, really helped me become the person I think I am today, because had I not done that, I don't think I would have gone on to do any of the other stuff. This is the proudest moment of my life so far, standing next to the Deputy Vice-Chancellor and the Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the university. A really proud day for my parents as well. Bear in mind, I'd had to sit in front of my parents and explain to them why I may actually not get into this university, to then 3 years later be standing next to the two people that run it was actually quite interesting for them, because they were like, gosh, Alex has come a long way from the guy sitting in front of them with, my hands in my lap thinking, okay, what on earth am I going to do here? I then had massive passion for politics, and I wanted to make a difference. I realized at university that lots of people never voted in elections at my age or never really cared about engaging in democracy. And as a half Egyptian, coming from, my mom coming from a country where lots of young people in Egypt are really put off voting, democracy is a very different thing there. It angered me seeing so many individuals at a young age not voting. So I set up the youth vote. And bear in mind, at the time, a lot of people were like, why are you bothering? But again, for me, it was really important that I was doing something to make a difference. Because again, because of the way that I treated school and college, and a lot of people had formed an opinion of me, I wanted to do things that really made a difference. So setting up the organization was one of them. And even to this day, it's one of the proudest things that I've done, setting up the youth vote. In 2017 and 2019, my organization went around the country, and youth engagement in the election was much better because of that. So it's a very proud thing, and I really urge you, if you do have something you're passionate about, no matter what it is, go and do it. The first day of my graduate scheme at J.P. Morgan. Now that's an interesting story. Again, coming from a university that's not necessarily ranked highly and not known to be a university where students go to companies like J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, McKinsey, etc. This was the first day, and I look back thinking, what I had to go through to get into J.P. Morgan was tough. I went to lots of different interviews and assessment days and was getting rejected from lots and lots. I think I probably got rejected from over 100 in a 12 to 13-month period. And for me, I was lucky where I was self-reflecting every time I was getting a rejection. And I was using my mentors and using people and trying to get as much feedback. And for me, I wasn't taking it personally. I wasn't getting rejected and thinking, okay, it's because the hiring manager didn't like me or because someone in the interview just thought Coventry wasn't good enough. I just knew that for some reason I wasn't good enough. But I wasn't going to just, take that as gold. I was going to ensure that even if I wasn't good enough, I'd do something to turn that around. And every interview that I went to, because I'd been self-reflecting and asking, what could I do differently? What could I change in terms of the way that I answer this question? Or what could I add to my CV? I was self-reflecting, and eventually I got to the point where things started to click into place. And luckily for me, and I really thank God for this, it just so happened that in the J.P. Morgan process, I really turned it around. Because up until that point, I was getting no after no after no. So this photo for me is a really memorable moment, standing next to three good friends of mine that we started the J.P. Morgan journey on together. And this, after J.P. Morgan, was a project called the Dream Big project that I started. Now, this guy's called Craig Fenton, and he's a massive role model to me. He is the UK director of Google. Now, if you'd asked me, as the kind of 15, 16-year-old boy, if I ever thought that I'd be interviewing and working on a podcast together with the UK director of Google, I would have said you're crazy. But what happened for me is over a period of time, I really wanted to prove people wrong, especially those teachers, remember, that actually had always said to me, Alex isn't really going to be anything. So throughout my life, I was trying to prove people wrong. And then I got to the point thinking, okay, I feel like I've actually done lots of things. You know, at university, I was student chair. I got selected to become youth ambassador of the UK, went to the EU for some meetings, really like representing the youth of the country within the EU, blogging for Huffington Post, starting the youth vote. I ran the NUS President at the time, Shakira Martin. I ran her strategy and ran her presidential campaign. So I'd done lots of things that I was really, really proud of and successful moments for me. So I got to this point thinking, okay, I'm going to start Dream Big because I want other young people and other students to dream big. Because a lot of people are always saying, be realistic with your goals. You know, don't try and dream too big because sometimes it's just not going to happen, or be realistic because that will give you like a better plan so you don't feel like you failed. I really dispute that. I really think you should dream big. No one's goal should be unachievable. And that's why I started Dream Big, and I've been working with Craig, because when I interviewed him, I realized that for someone as senior as Craig, for him, he had very, very similar goals to me, and to probably lots of you in this room when he started out in his career, and had worked hard to make it to where he is today. So I started Dream Big, and I'm still doing Dream Big today, because I really want to give back, and I really, really want to help students feel like they can achieve what they want to achieve. So Thomas Edison once said, "I've not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Now, this is a quote that, again, has really stuck with me for such a long period of time. And the reason it stuck with me is because, as I said, there was lots of different situations that just didn't click into place for me. Lots of interviews where I came out and I got a phone call to say, you haven't got it. Lots of exams I went into and I didn't get a good grade. Lots of things that just, I didn't get head boy. Lots of things happened. And I started to realize, okay, am I actually going to do anything successful? Am I going to have any successful moments in my life? And when I saw this quote, I realized that actually lots of people like me go through difficult things where they try something, it doesn't work. They try something, it doesn't work. But the people that give up are the people that will, unfortunately, not actually achieve their goals because they view failure as the kind of end of the road. I've never viewed failure as the end of the road. In fact, most people in here will fail at something in their life. I failed at lots and lots of things in life. Failed exams, failed interviews, failed lots of things. But for me, I knew that this quote was so true. There might be 10,000 ways that don't work for something, for an interview technique, for an exam technique, for something that you're doing. But there will be the 10,001th way for you to do it. And you need to find that thing. And you really do. And I think it's so important that you understand that even if you try something over and over again, of course, you should change things, you should learn from it, you should speak to the right people, really get mentors that can help you. But don't think that this is just never going to work. Because I started to think that. But for me, I started to realize that, no, Alex, stop. That's a destructive and negative mindset. Remember this quote, and I had it on my wall for so many years, and remembered that I'm going to try things and try things and try things, and it will fit into place. So if I can leave you with anything today, people believe that if you're born into family X, and family X might be individuals like they have my parents that have connections, they may understand the system being connections, nepotism, meritocracy, etc. Or family Y might be someone that doesn't have connections, doesn't know anyone. Don't believe that if you're in family X that you have a successful path, and family Y you won't. I really dispute that. I really think that you dictate your own destiny, and regardless for how many times that you fail, you pick yourself up, and you go, and you go, and you go again. Because as Thomas Edison had said, there might be 10,000 ways that don't work, but you will always, always find a way that will work. And keep looking for that way that will work, because you'll find it, you just need to persevere. Thank you very much.